Hello. I'm George from Corrido.eu. The topic of today's video is how to write a good Memorandum of Understanding. A Memorandum of Understanding is a document that outlines the terms and details of a working relationship between two parties. It is often used in business and government to establish agreements for collaboration or outline a partnership's terms. Here are some steps you can follow to write a good Memorandum of Understanding. Determine the purpose of the Memorandum of Understanding. The first step in writing a Memorandum of Understanding is to determine its purpose. What are the two parties looking to achieve through this agreement? Are they looking to collaborate on a project, establish a partnership, or outline the terms of a working relationship? Clearly defining the purpose of the Memorandum of Understanding will help you identify the key points that need to be included in the document. Identify the parties involved. The Memorandum of Understanding should clearly identify the two parties involved in the agreement. This includes their names, addresses, and any relevant contact information. Including a brief description of each party's role or responsibilities in the agreement is also a good idea. Outline the terms of the agreement. The Memorandum of Understanding should outline the terms of the agreement in detail. This includes the scope of the agreement, any specific tasks or responsibilities that each party will have, and any resources or support that will be provided. It is essential to be as specific as possible when outlining the terms of the agreement to avoid misunderstandings or ambiguities. Define the duration of the agreement. The Memorandum of Understanding should specify the duration of the contract, including the start date and end date, if applicable. It is also a good idea to include provisions for renewing or terminating the agreement if necessary. Include any legal provisions. Depending on the nature of the agreement, you may need to include specific legal provisions in the MOU. For example, you may need to include liability, confidentiality, or indemnification provisions. It is a good idea to consult with an attorney to ensure that you are including all necessary legal provisions in the Memorandum of Understanding. Include a signature section. The Memorandum of Understanding should have a signature section where both parties can sign and date the document. It is also a good idea to include a section for each party to keep a copy of the Memorandum of Understanding for their records. Review and revise the Memorandum of Understanding. Before finalizing the Memorandum of Understanding, it is essential to review the document carefully to ensure that it accurately reflects the terms of the agreement and that it is straightforward and easy to understand. You may need to revise the Memorandum of Understanding to address any ambiguities or to include any additional provisions that were not included in the initial draft. Consider using a template. There are many Memorandum of Understanding templates available online or through legal resources that can provide a useful starting point for drafting your Memorandum of Understanding. These templates often include the standard clauses and provisions commonly included in Memorandums of Understanding, which can save time and ensure that you are not missing any important elements. However, it is essential to customize the template to fit your agreement's specific needs and terms. Use clear and concise language. The Memorandum of Understanding should be written in clear, concise language that is easy to understand. Avoid using legal jargon or technical terms unfamiliar to the reader. Be specific and detailed. It is important to be specific and clear when outlining the terms of the agreement in the Memorandum of Understanding. This helps avoid misunderstandings or ambiguities that could lead to later disputes or disagreements. For example, if the Memorandum of Understanding includes provisions for the use of shared resources or equipment, be sure to specify who is responsible for maintenance and repair and any usage restrictions or limitations. Address potential conflicts of interest. If there is a potential for conflicts of interest between the two parties, it is crucial to address this in the Memorandum of Understanding. For example, suppose one party is providing funding for the project. In that case, there may be a conflict of interest if the other party is also responsible for evaluating the project's progress or success. In such cases, it may be necessary to include provisions in the Memorandum of Understanding to address these potential conflicts of interest. Consider including a dispute resolution clause. Disputes and misunderstandings can sometimes arise even when both parties have entered into an agreement in good faith. To minimize the risk of disputes, it may be helpful to include a dispute resolution clause in the Memorandum of Understanding. This clause should outline the steps that will be taken to resolve any disputes that may arise, such as mediation or arbitration. Review the Memorandum of Understanding with legal counsel. Before finalizing the Memorandum of Understanding, it is a good idea to review the document with legal counsel to ensure that it is legally enforceable and meets both parties' needs. An attorney can also help identify potential legal issues or liabilities arising from the agreement. Obtain approval from relevant parties. Depending on the nature of the agreement, it may be necessary to obtain approval from relevant parties before finalizing the Memorandum of Understanding. For example, suppose the Memorandum of Understanding is being entered by a government agency or a non-profit organization. In that case, obtaining approval from the board of directors or other governing bodies may be necessary. In conclusion, a Memorandum of Understanding is useful for establishing a working relationship or partnership between two parties. By following the steps outlined above, you can write a good Memorandum of Understanding that clearly outlines the terms of the agreement and helps ensure a smooth and successful collaboration. If you require professional advice in the field, we have the appropriate consultants to help. You may view the services that we can offer through corrido.eu.